where do you like to go normally when it comes to bands? I always ask this with people. Like, what are the typical bands?
Usually, the less platforms there are on the map, the less angry I get. So it's always like small Brawlhaven because when I go into training mode, I always turn on the power viewer, and then I just plant myself like directly in the center of the stage, so I understand how far my moves go again. And it's like the less I have to like go forward before something like reaches like where I want it to reach,
Right.
the better. So small Brawlhaven is just like a very easy map to cover. The next thing I look at most likely just be the length of the walls, and it's also extremely dependent on who I'm fighting because Demon Island, it's nice because bow ground pound is basically unreactable, and so is that spear dare like BS. So in most cases, small Brawlhaven's usually the best.
All right, so just like do the normal bands then. So you're gonna leave Brawlhaven, and then
Since I'm fighting against Lucian, for
right,
example,
right.
I kind of want to get ceiling kills out of the way because guns actually get more consistent hits that lead to the ceiling,
All right, yeah.
which sucks. So, and then I also have to deal with GCD sig. So extra lineage or leverage
Right.
on the walls is always really nice, but it has to be small as well because I still need to play with my own advantages as well.
Right, yeah. You can't just completely neglect your own character's like strengths and stuff just because you're trying to avoid what your opponent's playing.
Yeah.
At the end it's like you need to acknowledge it to a certain degree, but you don't want to have it completely affect like what I guess what like you're doing. Like you need to play to your strengths. Not their you don't need to gatekeep basically, I guess.
Yeah, I try not to completely negate it because there's no way to negate like strengths on like every weapon as if every weapon is incapable of everything.
Right.
But some characters just have niches that I need to acknowledge and kind of like get rid of or negate, like even if it's really small.
Okay, so BCX, right? Going into it, I heard a story that you weren't even going to go initially, and if you're like, correct me if I'm wrong, that your dad told you either you're like your own like basically okay if you go like you're confident you can win, and like did you told him yeah, and so like you're able
No,
to
I
go?
didn't. Well, I told him
Alright.
that because there is no other way I would be able to go. If I like, he basically made me go to the tournament, and the expectation was you better win.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, there's no way I perform like that.
Huh.
So I'm gonna just keep it out of mind for like just even a little bit, because if I play with an expectation, that's where I play horribly. Like,
Gotcha.
Like, I think this happened with Summers. Yeah, it happened with Summers. I got an expectation because I needed to see like when I could talk about the BCX with my parents, and I was like, okay, let me get 5th, and then I'll play, or like, and then I'll
yeah.
talk about it. I almost got top 8 winners side, which would lead me directly to 5th, and I was thinking about the tournament the whole time instead of what was in front of me. And then in the next one, when I fought Radish, again the same thing. So I got steamrolled because I wasn't focused at all. That's why I don't try to play like that. It's like instead of saying I hope I win, I would just say we'll see.
Yeah.
Which is what I said in the interview before Grand Finals.
Yeah, it's almost like one match at a time kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Looking ahead can only like it's extra stress in some ways. It's like even if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person got upset. Now my next match could be easier. It's almost neglecting the opponent you have to play coming up, or it's just like it's additional information in your head that you don't need.
Yeah, literally. I got rid of the habit of just like looking really far ahead of my bracket. Like when I was playing online, it kind of got to me after a while to just continuously look for ways to plot how I'm going to place in tournaments. The idea behind just looking at my sets, like I forced myself like on my phone while I was at BCX. I was like looking at it, and I only looked at the match. So it was like, even if I unless I advanced, I wasn't looking any farther ahead on my phone. That's about it. But yeah, the plan was kind of not to go unless unless my dad's expectation was just for me to win, which it was, even though he actually did not realize how unrealistic what I did was, or at least how unrealistic it looked. He basically put the anime protagonist like mindset on me.
That's actually insane.
It was pretty unhealthy.
Yeah.
But oh my god, broken by the way. Wait, I just lost my train of thought.
Talking about anime protagonist mentality with your dad's expectation of like basically having to win and him not realizing what you did was actually like basically crazy.
He still doesn't know it. He still doesn't know that I made history in the game I play every day.
Right.
And
he knows you made 50,000 though, right?
He does.
What are the thoughts on that?
He's as soon as I won, he put me in the car. He was like, "Bro, God loves you so much." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course he does." It was like, it wasn't even like I don't take a. I'm not like super critical to religion.
Right.
But there's no way that's like why. It was just like I played really good that day. It was like less of a religious thing, because if God's rooting for me, then is Stingray or godly like God's enemy? Hello? Like, is that just not considered?
Obviously to each their own in regards to that, but like as someone spectating, and I want to hear like what you think about your own gameplay, but watching that, it literally looked like there was some like, I mean, that was I'd say, and others were saying this too, straight up like the best Brawlhalla like I've ever seen played. Every interaction you did was borderline flawless. Like when you were playing, the fact that you 3-0 Godly Winners Finals, 3-1 him in Grands, and then 3-1 Luna, both PR1 in the in the regions. That's just, I mean, that's insane. Like the level of gameplay that they were playing was obviously high, and they've shown to be super consistent, because the PR reflects that. Did you feel like you were playing the best Brawlhalla? Like you couldn't do anything wrong, basically? Or were you just like locked into the moment and not even like thinking about that?
I wasn't like, oh my god, dude, I have supernatural Brawlhalla powers where I'm playing perfect neutral. At least that's not how it felt. It was just more like I was playing fine.
Right.
As in, like every interaction that I did, I actually ended up guessing really well, because Kai's a very simple character. Yeah, I just improved a lot, like right before BCX, because it was like I had the solution to every problem.
Huh.
And it's like there weren't really that many flaws. And if there were, it would just have to do with offstage, which is why I was consistently getting reverse nerfed by Godly.
So building off of like, I talked about Godly and Luna, and just like, I guess when it comes to like the whole run that you made, who was the hardest opponent for you? Like going into the set, was there ever someone you're like, oh my gosh, this is like, okay, this is who I don't want to fight the most? Or I don't know, like when you were playing them, like, oh wow, this is like harder than anticipated, or like this is, I have to be locked in, otherwise I'm gonna lose. Like who was that? Who was the one where it was like, this is such like so like stressful or just like hard? Or did that even exist?
I could definitely say Stingray, because as people have already probably mentioned before, and I've mentioned myself, that I coached, or he coached him.
Stingray coached you.
He coached me, and it especially like after so many brutal sets against the guy online, it almost felt like if I was going to perform, I just couldn't like not focus up. Like I was like, you should have seen my posture over there. I was like, I went shrimp mode. Like unironically, I've never been like that before, and even my win was like you could kind of see some emotion, because I tried really hard that set, and I was like, just like teed up and trying to make sure that I don't find myself kind of like idolizing the player I'm playing against, because it used to be a huge problem for me.
Yeah, because it's kind of like losing the battle before you've even had to play anyone.
Yeah, like right before I even had the chance to at least try to kind of like overcome it. It's very annoying. Like it's only happened like a couple of times. I think even now it kind of still happens with Ethan.
Gotcha.
It was like I used to look up to him because he played Spear, and then in some, if not almost every case where I've queued him into ranked, it would be like Boomy as well, because the
Right.
guy played Diana and I used to play her before I picked up Kaya. Even in tournaments, like if I queued either or, it was like significantly harder mentally. I had to get that fan mindset out of the way.
Which I can definitely like relate. And even if it's not fan mindset, it's just like if you've played someone so many times and they've consistently beaten you, right? Like getting out of the headspace that it's like, oh, this time is the one is so like I think it's so hard to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's just like it's almost like habit at a certain point, because you're expected to like lose or do bad into them, and it's like, I don't know, and not everyone's like this, but I think it can be hard just because you almost are like, because of that expectation, oh, this is how it's gonna go. It's almost like a safety net for the outcome, which like obviously like you want to like break that mindset. You don't want it to be like that.
I don't like being a top player and idolizing another top player as if I'm not a top player.
Mm-hmm.
It's severely like annoying. Like it's like the one mental block that I can say that I still have. I'm still working on it. I won BCX. Like I don't even know how that happens, and I think it's like something that I should work on.
Yeah.
Like even now. What if I look up to the person, I'm like, oh, they deserve to win BCX, as if I'm not playing significantly better than them, which has happened before.
Yeah, I mean, in BCX, there were several like sets, and just like, I mean, going into it, there's so many good people that anything can happen, really. And it's like, you know, from a spectator's perspective, you were clear, like it was clear as day that you were playing the best I think we've seen you play. At least I'll speak for myself. The best that I've ever seen you play, especially in a tournament, and no one else was coming close. And it was just like it's his day today. Like he showed up this like today or this weekend, and it was just like no one came even close. Like he's performing at peak, and obviously, you know, a certain amount of preparation stuff is gonna help. And it's not to say that it's a coin flip who wins, but I mean, that's just how it always is. Like whoever shows up and like is mentally there, clocked in, did the preparation. Like there's things you can do to help it, but once you're in that match, it's just like who's gonna play better? Like who's gonna be the one to like show up and stuff?
Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I think when people started to make some complaints about the setups, I kind of tried really hard to ignore the idea that the setups are like messing me up.
No, I am right along with you there.
With Godly, it was like he talked about the setups, which is like whatever. I mean, it's like people, top players just tend to kind of have a knack about setups. It's like with online it's ping, with LAN it's setups. Like nobody's ever satisfied, so why should it matter to me?
No, I completely agree. I overall like the setups. Speaking of online versus LAN, in your like post-win interview, you made the comment that online is more legit than LAN. What that to me that is crazy, because LAN's like the one place where everyone's on an even playing field. What even spawned that like that I don't know, that like take? Like what made you go with that? Not because I'm not gonna say it's wrong because it's your opinion, but
yeah, I'm saying like opinions are subjective. Thank you for saying that, actually, Loki. I worded it terribly, but my message was just, it's not as people made it out to be. It's not as significant as like people like Wrencher on Twitter. Like he started losing and he was like, dude, give me a LAN.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I haven't learned to LAN, so I'm not gonna complain about it, nor have I experienced it, so I'm not in his position to just talk about it. It's like, it's the same. Like it's LAN.
Okay, the feel to you was like it was no different than playing at home in some ways.
No, it was. That's how I talked about it. It was like, is having a roaring crowd like watching you and like literally screaming at the top of their lungs every time you hit something like D like ground pound unarmed, is that better somehow than as if you didn't have complete privacy in your own home?
Oh, okay.
The level of skill kind of it's almost as if it decreases, and then it's just a matter of who adjusts to the environment a little bit more. So I don't exactly find LAN like less legit per se, but it's not what I expected.
Right.
Except for like there are obvious differences because I found out that LAN, when you have an interaction and you get like a pretty good read, it feels like it has significantly more weights. Like if you hit like a half pipe on guitars, you felt like as if you won the set. It's so crazy. It feels like the game's like it's like a little bit slower. I feel like fast gameplay was kind of hard on it. It seemed to limit people almost. It felt like they were moving very stiff, at least when I fought into them. And I think that applies too because then they're not able to be comfortable in like their own movement because again, nothing beats an online setup.
I mean, who's to say like LAN is an even playing field, but if you're someone that has like ADHD or something, like seeing the crowd and like dealing with that, that's its own issue. That's like super, super hard. So like LAN isn't necessarily like an even playing field to them, but there's always going to be some sort of like, I do think LAN is like the closest you can get to that even sort of playing field. I mean, there are ways to minimize those sorts of issues to where it truly could be like fair for everyone. But yeah, I mean, those are good points that I think you bring up. But yeah, I figured the wording might be like slightly.
Yeah, I didn't explain it well. I obviously didn't actually because a couple of folks were on Twitter and Photocon had to like help me because people were like, bro won and just started ranting about the setups. It wasn't the case, but what can I do about it? Because that's basically what I said. The only way to go into it like into further detail would be to just like be on stream and just explain myself. So it's whatever.
Yeah.
But in short, it's still a take that I kind of stand by, which would be, even though online does have its connection issues, I think comfortability is like it's a really big factor in what expands the skill of the person that's playing.
Again, that's your opinion, and it's like offline events have always been like almost like the proving grounds in a way. So it's just like if people want to say like, oh, this is like the legit way to like play the game, and this is like the as fair as it can be by giving everyone like, I guess, the similar set of conditions. But yeah, in the end, it's like some people just aren't going to feel as comfortable and stuff, and the question there is like, okay, well, does that minimize their skill, or are they just then not like, you know, they're still a good player, but they're just not going to be known for showing up in like, I guess, like the big type of tournaments or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just hard. It's so hard to say. Like, what is that? How does that discredit a player, and how much does it? Because I do think it does a little bit. If you perform online well, and then you like consistently can't, like you're just a completely different player when it comes to LAN. But I mean, you know, to what degree does that like take away from you? Who am I to say? It's so hard to determine that. That's like a subjective thing where you could go hours and hours on it. Are you on keyboard or controller?
I'm on controller, PS5. I've gotten adjusted to PS5 because do you know Sandwick by chance?
Yes.
Yeah, he took me to the mall because I needed to buy a controller before a tournament, and it was like, I had like 15 minutes to go, and we went to Best Buy. The PS4 controllers were out of stock. We went to a GameStop. The PS4 controllers were out of stock, and we had like 2 minutes to go. So I was like, how am I gonna replace the controller? And I came to the wild conclusion of just playing PS5, and that's like. And now that I really look back at it, I'm very comfortable with the decision that I made because it's a really nice controller. Actually, all of my inputs feel like clear, or like they feel as if they do a lot of damage. Also, Caspian might actually be super like pre-patch power creeped. Like,
oh yeah, no,
I can't put into words.
This character's broken.
How many different obstacles there are.
Like if I caught you there, I actually think you would have died.
No, I would have. Like, there's always like something to look out for on Caspian. Caspian's basically the Lucian of Gauntlet characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of get it. Caspian's just like his own. I knew you were gonna go for that. I was like, yeah, the Rhea's gonna come out at some point. Is there anything you want to say to like end off the video? Like, what's the next move for Impala 2023, like Brawlhalla?
Initially, I thought I was gonna like kind of like throw the towel competitively because
Okay.
I was like, you can only win so hard. Like I made history.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
like, why should I improve? And this like completely got thrown out of the window because I ended up fighting Radish, and I was like, I'm still trying, and I'm still obviously putting effort to improve. So
Because you're at the mountaintop. Now it's, okay, how long can I hold this level of play?
I think what I could do is I think grow more because on top of winning BCX, I still kind of sucked with content creation. So I want to see if I could really like thrive out of the achievement that I got and see where it takes me.
So yeah, no, I think you're definitely doing stuff right. I mean, like I said, you're at the mountaintop now. Now it's time to see how consistent you can be, and if someone does edge you out there, try and get another win, or see how many you can get in a row, make content, capitalize on it.